Today we're going to be learning how to factor an expression, okay? And factoring is undoing the distributive property. Okay, so yesterday we had something that looked like this. Okay, and we wanted to distribute that 5 to that x and that 3 to get a 5x plus 15. Okay, factoring is going the opposite way. So we're going to have a 5x plus 15, and we want to write it in a form with parentheses. Okay, and we're going to talk about how to do that. The first thing you're going to need to do is find a greatest common factor. Now this part is not on your notes, okay, so I just want you to be paying attention to the video. Don't have to write anything down. If you want to take notes on this, you can always flip your page over and do this on the back. All right. So in order to factor, almost every single direction is always going to say factor using the greatest common factor. Okay, so let's review how to find the greatest common factor. All right, well, a factor is a number in a multiplication problem. So a factor times another factor gives you your product or your answer to a multiplication problem. Okay, so the factors are 5, are numbers that multiply to be 5. Okay, well 5 is pretty easy because it's a prime number. So the only two numbers that multiply to be 5 are 1 and 5. I forgot I was going to do these in colors. Okay, factors of 20. There's many different numbers. Let's just start with 1. Okay, and 1 times what is 20? What's 20? Okay, 2. 20 can be divided by 2, and 2 times 10 is 20. 3 can't go into it, 4 can, and it's 4 times 5. Okay, and those are all of our factors are 20. There are no other numbers, two numbers that multiply together to be 20. Okay, now greatest common factor. So we're looking for the greatest number, the largest value number, so the highest number, and the one that they have in common. Okay, well they both have a 1 in common, and they both have a 5 in common. Okay, now 1 and 5. 5 would be our greatest common factor because it's our greatest or largest number factor that's included. Okay, that was just kind of a little side note. Because when we factor, just given expressions like this, we're going to need to know how to find the greatest common factor. But we're going to take a step back. We're going to start looking at some area models like we looked at yesterday. All right, and this is where you definitely want to start following along in your notes. All right, so this first example is kind of talking about what we talked about yesterday. All right, so to find the area of this box, we multiply this length times this width. So 2 times x. And 2 times x simplifies to be 2x. Okay, then to find this rectangle right here, we have 2 times 6. So we do 2 times 6, which simplifies to be 12. Okay, now here are the two different ways to write it. Okay, that distributed property way, where it was 2 times the quantity x plus 6, because that's our length times our width. Okay, or we could write it as the area, which is 2x, the area of the first one, plus 12, the area of the second one, to get the area of the whole shape. Okay, that's kind of what we talked about yesterday. Now we're going to be doing the opposite. As you know in the second example, the areas are filled in and we need to find what those length pieces are. Okay, so we just kind of undo our thinking. They tell us that there's a 5 over here. Okay, so that means 5 times our length gives us our area. So 5 times what gives us a 5x? Okay, we can think 5 times what gives us a 5x, or we can just divide 5x by 5, and we'll be left with x. All right, same idea here. 5 times what gives us 20? Or 20 divided by 5, which is 4. Okay, now we write this in our two different ways. 5 is our factor that we're multiplying by both of them, so that goes outside the parentheses. Then we have our length, which is x plus 4, that goes inside our parentheses. Now we write our second way, which is the area, the sum of our areas, which is 5x plus 20. Because if we add the area of this box to the area of this box, we get the area of the whole box. All right. Here we have 6x and 48. Okay, and we don't know what number we're taking out of there yet. Okay, we don't know what number we're factoring out, but we do know that this one is 8. So that gives us a piece of information. 8 times what gives us 48. So we can say 8 times what is 48, or we can take 48 divided by 12. Or sorry, not 12, 48 divided by 8. And 48 divided by 8 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Okay, now that we have that 6, we can ask ourselves, 6 times what gives us 6x? Or 6x divided by 6 gives us x. That's our fact family. Okay. Now we have to write it our two different ways. We have our 6 as our width. That's being multiplied by x plus 8, which is our length. Okay. And then we have the second way, which is our area sum. So we have 6x plus 48, which gives us the area of this whole box as well. All right. Here we have 10x and a 30. Okay, I want you to think to yourself, what times x gives us 10x? We already have our x, so it would be 10. 10 times x gives us 10x. Okay, then we're looking for this box right here. 10 times what gives us 30? Or you can think backwards using a fact family. 30 divided by 10 is 3. All right, our two different ways to write this, we are multiplying 10 by the length, which is x plus 3. And then our sum of each of those areas is 10x plus 30. Remember, sum means addition. All right. We're going to do a couple more examples together. All right, we're going to start off using the information that they give us, 5x plus 35. Now, I already wrote it into that box for you for this first example. Okay, so our 5x goes in the first box, 35 goes in the second box. I also told you what number is outside that parentheses. Okay, the number that's outside the parentheses is on a side all by itself. Okay, so notice how this side has 2 boxes. This side only has 1. So this is where the 5 goes, all by itself. Okay, now we have to find out what that length is. So we say 5 times what gives us a 5x? Well, 5 times x gives us a 5x. And 5 times what gives us 35? Well, 5 times 7 gives us 35. Okay, so it's 5 being multiplied by the length, x plus 7. All right, let's try 2x plus 12. We put our 2x and 12 inside our boxes. It tells us that 2 is going to be on a length or width all by itself. This one has 2 boxes. This only one has 1. So we put our 2 in there. We say 2 times what gives us 2x? Well, 2 times x gives us 2x. Then we say 2 times what gives us 12? Or we can use our fact families and say 12 divided by 2 is 6. Here we are going to write 2 times the length, x plus 6. Okay. Try this next one on your own. Pause the video, try it on your own, and then click resume to check your answer. So we have 3x and 21. All right. It doesn't tell us what number comes outside, okay? And this is where we need to talk about that greatest common factor. We have the number 3 and we have the number 21. And we need to find the greatest common factor to see what number we're going to pull out. Okay, well, the only numbers that can be divided by 3 or that are factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Okay, 21 has 1, 21, 3, and 7. That greatest common factor then would be 3. So 3 is going to be on a side all by itself. 3 is what's going to go outside the parentheses. So we're going to pull out that 3. We're going to say 3 times what gives us a 3x? Well, 3 times x gives us a 3x. And 3 times what gives us a 21? 3 times 7 gives us a 21. So this inside parentheses goes x plus 7. We can always check our answer. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 7 is 21, so we know that we got it right. All right. This next one is 7x and 21. Same idea. What can 7x and 21 both be divided by? That's the greatest common factor. Okay, well, the factors of 7 are 7 and 1. So we're looking at the greatest common factor. Can 21 be divided by 7? Yeah. Okay, so that greatest common factor is going to be 7. Okay, because that would be 1, 21, 3, 7. The greatest one in common is 7. We say 7 times what gives us 7x? That would be an x. And 7 times what gives us a 21? That would be a 3. Now when we write this, our greatest common factor, the number that we're pulling out of our two terms, is a 7. So we're taking 7 out, and then we have x plus 3 left over. Okay, again, we can check. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 3 is 21. We are good to go. All right, this next one, we have 3x plus 15. It tells us we don't even have to find that greatest common factor, that we're going to pull out a 3. Okay, try this one on your own and check it with the video when you're done. All right, so when we pull out that 3, we have 3 times what gives us 3x, that's an x. 3 times what gives us 15, that's a 5. So 3 times quantity x plus 5 is our answer. This next one, we have 5 and 45. They don't tell us what to pull out, so we have to list those factors. Well, 1 and 5 are the only factors. So we know that 45 has 1 as a factor, but does 45 also have a 5? Does 5 times something equal 45? Yeah, it's 5 and 9. And since those are only two options, 5 is our greatest common factor. Okay, because those are our only two options for the number 5. So it either has to be a 1 or it has to be a 5. And it looks like it's going to be a 5. Okay, so 5 goes on the side by itself. 5 goes outside the parentheses. Okay. Now inside, I forgot to write my 5x and my 45. Again, I want you to try this one on your own. Okay, and then look up to the video when you are done. Okay, so 5 times what gives us 5x? That's an x. 5 times what gives us 45? That's 9. So 5 times quantity x plus 9. We check our answer. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times 9 is 45. All right. Now what we're going to do is we are going to do it without an area model. Okay, I do believe most of the problems on your test are going to have an area model. However, I do want you to feel confident in doing this without one. Okay, so for number 11, we have a 4x and a 16. So let's just maybe at the bottom list our factors of 4 and 16. And you could always do this on the back side too if you ran out of room. Factors of 4. 1 times 4. 2 times 2. Factors of 16. 1 times 16. 2 times 8. 4 times 4. Greatest number in this list is a 4. We do have a 4 in this list, so 4 is going to be our greatest common factor. 4 is what we are going to be writing on the outside of that parentheses. Okay, now we ask ourselves, 4 times what gives us a 4x? 4 times x gives us a 4x. 4 times what gives us 16? 4 times 4 gives us 16. We can check that work. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 4 is 16. That is the same exact thing as that, so we got it right. Great. Same idea for the last 3. Okay, I will walk you through the next one, and then I want you to do the last 2 on your own. 7 and 35. 7's factors are 1 and 7. 35 is 1, 35, 5, 7. Greatest common factor is going to be 7. 7 goes outside the parentheses. 7 times what gives us a 7x? That would be x. 7 times what gives us 35? That would be 5. Check that answer. We get 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 5, 35. That is the same thing as here, so we are good to go. Try these next two on your own, and then resume the video to check your answers. All right, for 9 and 81. For 9, we have 9 and 1. 81, we have 9, 9, 81, 1. So here we see that 9 is going to be our greatest common factor. 9 goes on the outside of that parentheses. Then we ask ourselves 9 times what gives us 9x? Well, that's an x. 9 times what gives us an 81? That's a 9. All right, check. That is 9x plus 81. We are good to go. All right, last one. We have 4x and 18. Factors of 4, 1, 4, 2, and 2. Okay, factors of 18 are going to be 1, 18, 9, 2, 6, and 3. Okay, 1 is a factor, but it's not the greatest. 4 is not a common factor, so our greatest common factor is 2. So 2 would go on the outside of the parentheses. Now here's when it gets tricky because it's not just an x in that first one. 2 times what gives us 4x? Okay, or 4x divided by 2. Well, 4 divided by 2 is 2. X divided by nothing is x, or x divided by 1, I should say, is x. Okay, so 2 times 2x is what gives us a 4x. And then 2 times what gives us an 18? That would be 2 times 9 gives us 18. We just quickly check that answer. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times 9 is 18. 4x plus 18 is what we had, so we have it correct. As always, you can rewind, go back to any parts of the video that you were confused on. You can write any questions down on your paper, ask a teacher, but make sure that you understand this factoring because we will keep practicing it for the next few days. And it will be on your Chapter 3 test.